My name is Liam Scott Gunfield. I've just finished studying psychology of sport and exercise at my master's at Leeds Beckett University. My dissertation was called The Consequences of Prosocial and Antisocial Behaviour in Sport using Qualitative Methods.
So what made you decide to research this area?
I don't really know where it came from, to be honest. So morality, basically. I've not really thought about it in sport until doing the masters, and then it would have been early on, probably the first time that Dr. Nick Danger came into the actual MIS, like here's the options that you've got, and then that's when I was like, oh, that actually sounds quite interesting.
So you wanted to change really from the
turned over a new leaf, and but now it's a very interesting area, and also there's not really that much literature on certain areas of it, so gave me quite a lot of scope for what I could do for my dissertation, because there's loads of gaps in the literature at the moment.
So when you went through talking about the background of your research, can you tell me about the background surrounding area?
So there's basically one person who's been doing the bulk of the work on the consequences. That's Ali Al-Jaribi, and that's from a PhD at the University of Birmingham. And there's 5 different papers in there. So the first one's just the consequences of antisocial or prosocial behaviour in sport, and there's 2 studies within that. And then there's the same thing again, but with looking at task cohesion and burnout, and whether they are the consequences or like what the mediating effects of those are. And then there's also the role of a coach-created climate. Another study by Benson and Bruner that came out this year that is looking at the consequences of prosocial and antisocial behaviour on social identity and social strength within a team setting, to see basically whether people who are the recipient of antisocial behaviour identify less with their team than people who do lots of prosocial behaviour. I wanted to do something like that. There's no literature looking at opponent behaviour anywhere that I could find, so no one has any idea what the consequences of opponent behaviour are for the opponent and for the recipient. But so far there hadn't been any qualitative methods used in any of the studies that I found, and that was something that I wanted to do. So I wasn't really that comfortable doing the quantitative analysis apart from my undergraduate. I thought I'd do something a bit different, mix it up, and also it's more exploratory, so it's perfect for the area really, because there hasn't been any exploration into it yet using those methods. So
you're adding really to the body of knowledge.
I think you pretty much have to do that with whatever study you're doing, otherwise if you're not going to add anything, then why are you doing it?
Moving into the procedures you use and your methods, can you explain further?
Because it was more of an exploration, like increase the specifications for people to participate. So I didn't want to have just male footballers or just specific sports for the specific gender. So I left all that open. My only specifications were university level and over 18. Basically, I think that was it. That was literally it, yeah. I wanted to get 12 participants. There was a study that said that 12 is like the kind of area that you want to get. You're going to get good results if you have 12 participants. I only had 4 in the end. The procedure was interviewing, scenario sheet, which had a load of like different situations of prosocial and antisocial behaviour sport. This is for teammates and opponents. I interviewed my participants. I had 4 participants, 2 male footballers, 1 female basketball player, and 1 male rugby player who also had taken part in national level relay swimming.
Right.
So obviously they're in a team, so that was fine. That's it. Team sports had to be for team sports. So I did thematic analysis, which is very widely used but poorly demarcated, as in people rarely say what it is, or they never really clearly define what they're doing. And people like to do thematic analysis but don't say they're doing it, or they don't specify what they're doing, as in the exact steps, and they don't also specify their philosophical assumptions beforehand. So obviously with qualitative research, as the interviewer, you're going to be able to get different results because of how you're perceived by the interviewee, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
If we both did the interview, we'd both get different results. Or
Right.
maybe. It depends. First step is transcription, familiarisation with the results. Then it's like general coding. You go through all the interviews. I printed them all out. I read through them a couple of times after I'd already transcribed them and listened to them twice. So I knew what was going on in the data. I would underline specific quotes from my participants. And I also had these little post-it notes, these small post-it notes. So I've got 4 different sections. So I've got antisocial teammate behaviour, antisocial opponent behaviour, prosocial teammate behaviour, and prosocial opponent behaviour. So they come up twice in the interviews each. So I put a sticky note when that came up, so I could easily flick through.
Yeah.
And I had a spreadsheet as well, which was the codes that I was writing down. And then on the right hand side, I had the interviews 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I put the page number of where it's mentioned. So that was an easy way of seeing which ones were coming up in across all 4, or maybe across all 3, because obviously there might be differences in the gender. I've got 3 males and 1 female. So if 3 things came up for the males but not in the other one, then that might be a sign. I don't think it is, because I don't have that many participants. Maybe codes that fit together to form a theme, and then the final stage is reporting, which is actually writing it up, and all the whatever you found, interpreting your results and making it easy for people to understand.
So, what did you find from your results you gathered?
But the current literature says that if you're a recipient of prosocial teammate behaviour, the consequences are that you increase your effort, you increase your enjoyment and commitment as well. And then antisocial teammate behaviour, if you're the recipient of that, it increases your anger and decreases your effort, which has an overall effect on your perceived performance. And I found in mine that was all true, using my methods, but there was also a few different things that could affect it, that like change the consequences. So for antisocial teammate behaviour, if you're the recipient, right, it depends on the state. Like there's a lot of talk about status of like the protagonist, so the person who instigates the antisocial behaviour. For example, your like leader or your captain antisocially behaves towards you, let's say they swear at you or something, that can produce positive increases in effort and performance because you see them as like a credible source, or you want to perform for them. I don't know why, because obviously this is just the initial findings, so I don't know why that happened. Lots of reasons. One was arousal. Different situations call for different levels of arousal. If someone's swearing at you, someone that is a credible source, then that will increase your arousal, and then you obviously will then put in more effort. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, right? If your coach is shouting at you, like, defend better, or you need to do this, to whoever, then you're like, oh crikey, I better get into action and do that. So yeah, the status of the person who's instigating the behaviour can alter the consequences to be positive rather than the negative, which is what the current literature says. Also, the position of the recipient on the field, like antisocial behaviour for defenders, can increase their performance, whereas if you use that exact same antisocial behaviour for an attacker, then it's negative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
For example, if you're defending in rugby, if you're defending on the try line, someone on the team's like swearing at you, like, do your job, it's the last minute or whatever, and you need to defend, is like effing mark or swearing at you to get you to do this, and you're more like alert, or maybe again it could be the arousal, more aroused.
So find skills that are.
I think, yeah. This is what I was going to say. If you're attacking, you need to be more creative. Someone swearing at you isn't going to help because it makes you more like anxious. I feel you need that higher level of arousal or testosterone or whatever it is to perform better in certain sports, certain situations. That's what all of my participants said. In certain situations, it's beneficial to have like someone shouting at you to get you to do something. Antisocial opponent behaviour. The 3 themes were injury, like the injury consequences, or the negative consequences, mainly injury. Also retaliation as a consequence, and there's no positive consequences for retaliating. The credibility of the individual is the instigator of the antisocial behaviour. All the literature says that it's only ever going to have negative consequences for teammates. However, Scott Gunfield, 2018, suggests otherwise. Someone who has a high reputation can actually evoke positive performance consequences from using antisocial teammate behaviour. You can be antisocial towards an opponent, and if no one sees it, nothing happens, or it could even benefit you. But if the referee sees it, you can be sent off, and you can negatively affect your team because you're not on the pitch. So the officials play a big part in the consequences of antisocial opponent behaviour. Antisocial teammate behaviour reduces task cohesion. Position mediates antisocial teammate consequences, and protagonist status mediates antisocial teammate behaviour consequences. The next one was about task cohesion, which is the efficiency of a team to work towards a shared goal. If you knew that. Team cohesion is how your team is able to perform efficiently
And effectively.
If you're not working towards, or if you're fighting amongst each other, you clearly don't have this shared goal that you're trying to achieve. Because obviously if you've got people bickering or arguing amongst each other, swearing at each other, it's not going to be very beneficial for the overall team performance, because you've got people who aren't concentrating on the goal. Whereas if everyone's like, oh, you're playing well done, you're doing really well, you're going to be working more well together because you've got increased enjoyment, and task cohesion is increased, team cohesion is increased. So it's just better for everyone, apart from your opponents, which is good. The current literature talks about the role of the motivational climate, which is, there's two that they talked about, a mastery and a performance climate. Mastery climate is where a coach kind of gives you more individual targets, so you're more focused on your own goals, whereas a performance climate is where you're competing against your own teammates towards the same kind of goal. And that mastery climate increases prosocial behaviour, and a performance climate increases antisocial teammate behaviour. If you're competing against your own teammates, generally people are going to be more, they're going to want to win more, which means they're going to be acting antisocially towards their teammates to kind of give themselves a push or more of a benefit. Whereas the mastery climate means everyone's focusing on themselves, trying to accomplish their own goals. They're not really worried about what their teammates are doing, and that overall gives you more of a better team cohesion if you're acting prosocially towards each other and you're more focused on your own personal accomplishments. So the limitations are, obviously, which I was talking about earlier, I only had 4 participants, whereas I wanted to do about 12. Also, because I'm talking to people about past experiences, they might be talking about them slightly differently to how they actually occurred because of recall error. And also, when you're talking about being antisocial towards somebody, you might sort of change it slightly to make yourself seem a little bit better, rather than being like, oh yeah, I punched him in the face and it felt fantastic. Code, or the thing that came through, was about the status of people. It's so important that captains or coaches understand that their praise can go a long way for someone who is a minor figure in a team. I mean, I don't know what the long-term effects of using antisocial teammate behaviour are. When the short term they might be good, but if they keep getting abused every single session, they might have negative consequences for commitment. So that's something that people could look into for further.
So more longitudinal research.
Yeah, exactly. Be a good person in sport and in life, and in the Bible. Love thy neighbour, do not covet thy neighbour's ox, and act prosocially. Thanks, Adam.
Well,
See you with the deal.